Hello and welcome. Welcome, everyone. This is Dana Rubin, and I'm here with Amelia, and we are going to talk about conscious parenting today. So I'm very excited. How are you doing, Amelia?
Doing overall okay. It's a wild ride and little things tend to like sneak in there to happen to just divert and derail. Like just before this, my dog decided to run around the neighborhood and have me chase him. So it's all parenting of animals and children has been very interesting through this ascension time.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. Not only are we parenting hu little humans and medium humans, but we're also parenting for babies. That's so funny. It's true,
Yes.
though. Yes. And everyone is super sovereign, so they have a mind of their own.
Yes. And we honor that here so that can, allow for some interesting experiences. But how are you doing these days?
I'm doing great. Everything is an adventure and we're learning as we go. So we're going to talk a lot about that today, about conscious parenting. I'm going to step in with a view of the earlier years because that's what I'm going through at this present moment. So I will be talking, I have two sons that are 5 and 7. So going through the earlier years, even preconception, we're going to talk about a lot about that. And then Amelia, you're going to talk about the later in life aspects, and of course chime in because you've gone through everything I'm going through right now. And your two girls, they're
Mhm.
teenagers. So talking about that aspect as well. So we're going to be able to cover a lot of the spectrum of parenthood, basically. Uh,
Mhm.
we spoke about this before we started the video. Of course, there are a lot of concerns about children that are on the spectrum of autism, and we both don't really have um, a connection with that right now personally. I know that I don't have like deep and entrenched issues with the children when it comes to that. So we're not really going to touch on that in this video, but if you're interested in that, please put that in the comments and we can definitely come back and do a part two and focus on um, the labels. And we don't want to even use those labels because we know that those children are blessed and they're teaching us in a whole different way. But for today, we're going to talk about children in general and go from there. It's going to be wonderful.
Yes,
Great.
and I will just jump in and say that this just popped in that a lot of the children that present with that type of label that you were just mentioning, because I don't like labels either, that they have more crossovers in the brain, right and left hemisphere. And I read a book years ago called Born on a Blue Day that really described that. And so I think that's where we're headed with our young ones, so that we're all going to have, probably all going to have more crossovers and have all the functions be united in the brain. So that won't be an anomaly or different or whatever we're going to label it.
Exactly, exactly, yes. And some of those crossovers could look like a 2-year-old using both hands, and you don't really know if they're right-handed or left-handed yet. So,
Mm-hmm.
and they're using both sides of the brain, and that's why that's happening. Fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
Great.
Yeah.
So we're going to move into preconception, and we're going to talk a little bit about that before you're even pregnant, when you are downloading the essence of your spirit baby. And I talk about this a lot in my humanitarian project, which I have already started, even though I'm juggling the full-time job as well. Spirit came in and it was very specific. So this is not something that is out there. There's no outline for it. So you need to go and show whoever is going to be helping us with our humanitarian projects. You need to actually create it so they can actually see it. It's not a business plan on paper. It's, already visual. So think about that if you're thinking about a humanitarian project. But basically, with regards to my story, just to give a little quick summary of it, I have a lot of videos on my social media and the links below that talk about it in more depth. But I basically am a late bloomer as a human design projector. We both are projectors, actually.
Yes.
We are designed to be late bloomers. So we create life for us. It happens a little bit later on in life. So it's really not necessary to um, compare ourselves to other people. So I got married late, 36 years old. At 38 and 40, we had our two children, and that was the progression. And some fun, interesting things happened as we were family planning, if you want to call it that. I started getting these downloads of a a baby boy, and had done a QHHT session with a practitioner. Maybe, when I first started dating my then boyfriend at the time. So I knew that there was a baby boy in my past, and I had a past life as an Atlantean priestess. um, it was really interesting to go through that whole process and to actually meet him. I didn't get to see his face, but I knew that he was like a mover and a shaker and he got things done and all these things. And this is how he presents in this life as well, which is fantastic. But he started coming and connecting with me, and I didn't even know what to call it. So we went through that. I learned about hypnobirthing, so that all came together. And with the second um, pregnancy, I didn't get anything at all. So I had to do all the research. So I should go and like find books on spirit babies and all of that. And I realized that I was communicating with the soul and the essence of the baby before they were even coming in. And Sherry Divban does a great job of explaining this in a lot of her books. She's the founder and owner of the Aramis Learning Center. So most of you may be familiar with her and her work. She's on YouTube and a lot of other platforms. But basically, she talks about this. This is the new norm of parenting. It starts with preconception, and it also starts with the connection of the baby, the spirit baby, the essence of them coming in, connecting with you. Sometimes their energy is so big, and the children coming in at this time, their energy is extremely big. They are either seventh density or eighth density. And I believe to come to Earth, you have to be sixth density. Your soul has to be at that level. So they're coming in, and eighth density has been created. In the past, we were just at seventh density, but eighth density has actually just been created. So they're coming in and they're expansive and they're massive. So the firstborn is an ET soul. He was in the Orion Wars. Like, there's all this juicy, interesting information about him. The second born is a Titan soul, so he's always talking about being bigger. And like, I just end up putting like two and two together. Like, oh, you want to be bigger? You must. And he's extremely emotional. So it
Mhm.
works out great. But the preconception aspects of this is really intense, and it's going to happen. So if you haven't had if you're watching this as a research for parenting and you're looking to start a family, I do a lot more, on my channel about that. This is going to be talking about people that are in the mix in parenting, but we are going to talk more about that. At the same time, I wanted to touch on preconception because you never know, you could be bringing in a new soul in the future, adding to your family, and might help you a lot. But pre the parenting aspect is it starts before you get pregnant, is basically what I'm trying to say.
Mhm.
And as we move in towards the actual pregnancy aspect, the rebirth of the midwife is going to be phenomenal. The first thing that the powers that be, the deletes, took away was the midwife, because the midwife was the healer. The midwife took care of the expectant mother. The midwife was the connection for the community, the entire community. And the midwife took on the role as a medicine woman as well. And hence the Salem witch trials, those were mostly midwives. So we're bringing that back into our consciousness, delayed cord clamping, preserving the placenta, giving the placenta to Mother Earth, learning about breastfeeding on a different level. And going back to village and community parenting, you always hear it takes a village. It really does take a
Mhm.
village to parent the children, especially with these beautiful children coming in. They have so many gifts, and they actually come in wanting to use telepathy. And Amelia and I talked about this right before we started our video, that my youngest son, the Titan, he came in and it was telepathy. So he was connecting with me on a very intense level. When he wanted to eat, if he was needed to change a diaper, I mean, I was getting all of those downloads, and it wasn't a word. I didn't hear like I'm hungry in my head. I just had this feeling, and it rushed into me. I'm more clairsentient that way. And I just knew, and we didn't have to use words. So for the first year of his life, we just had fun not using words. I wouldn't call him nonverbal because he was very verbal. He was still talking and mouthing and all of that, but he was still it was fun. But it turns into an issue when school time starts and daycare starts and they want him to talk and he's not talking as much. And it starts to look like an issue, which it's not. So as parents, as new parents, you have to look at that and kind of start realizing that that is what the new generation coming in, that's what they want to do. That's their norm. We don't have words in the spirit world. We have feelings. We're connecting with our mind and it's telepathy. So that's going to be a new thing that us as the older generation on the planet is going to have to connect with. Amelia, did you want to add anything so far?
Yes, I was just thinking too how we're about 10 years apart on our children. My daughter's almost 15
Yeah.
and I have a 17, so the 5 and 7. And so I was a little bit younger, but still, close to 30 when I was having my children. And so I was just emerging into more of my intuitive self. I always knew I was intuitive, but and so I always knew things, but I didn't know why I knew all those things. So um but it's interesting how things have shifted even in that 10-year gap of how parenting is expanding and changing and shifting. Because I felt like I was a little bit isolated in my methods and my processing and everything. Um, and my youngest is half Titan, half architect, so that's interesting. And my oldest had a larger soul, but she's had to adapt a little bit going over to two households. So in my situation, they have to go back and forth and they are never really settled. So she sent part of herself to the Oversoul for safety reasons. And so she's more elemental. She's extremely bohemian, kind of like a hippie. She wouldn't agree with me probably if I said the word hippie, but she very much is. And she's my girly who's been had more of the crossovers in the brain and loves communicating with animals. And I often hear her thoughts. So since she was little.
Mhm.
And she was also the one who would like to wake me up in the middle of the night, 3 a.m., and just talk about the parties she's planning when she was 4 years old. Yeah, just big, big ideas all the time. So we're working with a lot of big energies here in this new earth parenting ascension pathway parenting, and it's a lot of fun, but it's also unique. So the way I was raised does not match at all how my kids are being raised.
Yes.
So
Mhm. Yeah, absolutely. And we are both coming from our own personal perspectives. So all of it's going to be different. And I love Abraham Hicks and the way they say that you can never get it wrong and you can never get it done. So we are just stumbling through and it feels like we're the mess and the masterpiece at the same time. I say that all the time. But
all the
it
time.
does feel like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
You just figure it out as you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
And there
And
is no, yeah, go ahead.
I tell my kids that too. I was like, okay, mom dropped the ball here, but that happened. So just roll with me and let's just get it done now,
Mhm.
because sometimes they want it in a certain way. And it's just a whole, it is the mess and the masterpiece at the same time.
Yeah, that's so funny. And you can read so many books on parenting, but your personal book, you're going to be writing it as you parent, as
Hmm.
your children are birthed and they go through the entire process up to adulthood. So, and
Okay.
that's why we're making a video like this today, because we want to at least touch on our experiences to at least share some light and help you out. So, with regards to elementary school, I want to talk a little bit about that because that is where my kids are at the moment. Elementary school has gotten a little bit better, in
Mm.
that there is a little bit more connection, there's more projects, there's more involvements. Both of my children are one's in kindergarten, one's in second grade. They both have apps on the phone where I get pictures, I can volunteer, I get into the school. I learn what's going on, and if I have any advice for that age group, is to volunteer. Take the time off of work, it's worth it to get into the school, to see the classroom, to see the environment, to talk to the teacher, and to know what's going on with your child in school. One thing that Sherry Divban has decoded is that the word school, when you put it backwards, it spells and sounds out the word loosh. And for those of you that know what loosh is, it is something that the entities that be have they've been feeding off of us. And we could go into more of that, but we're going to keep this kosher because we're keeping it on YouTube. But there's a reason the word school, if you invert it and you turn it backwards, mirror it, it spells loosh because there were frequency grids over schools. So, for instance, my children were zoned for a certain school in where we live, and the daycare that they went to is further away from our school, and there's other elementary schools in that area. So I woke up one morning and I realized that the school that we were supposed to put our children in was not the school. It had a frequency grid around it, and I figured this out by having a consultation with Sherry Divband, and finding out, and she uses her higher self to tap into the soul of your child and basically getting more information about that. And she saw that there was a frequency grid around the school that's closest to my house. So we opted to do school choice, is something that we have in Florida. You can choose to go to a school that is not in your district, basically,
Mhm.
which is fantastic. And I believe that's going to be rolled out nationwide for everyone. I think I've seen that in the current administration as an option for everyone, which I think is beautiful. If you have a school that is not in your district and you want to make sure that your child can go to it, that is ideal. And I think every parent should have access to that. So we chose to, wake up a little bit earlier every morning and get to a different school, but the daycare was next to it and their friends were going to that location, so I thought it was a perfect fit. So go with your gut when you are looking at school. Visit the school, talk to the principal, talk to the administration, get a feeling for the school. I remember walking into the school that we were supposed to put our children in, and everything was perfect on paper. The the staff felt comfortable. They were very, very nice, overwhelmingly nice. But the feeling I got when I was in that building was disgusting. And I had to go with that. And in the neighborhood that I live in, all the schools are A-rated. And we started them out in a B school, which is now an A school. Um, which is, and my sister-in-law was like, "What are you doing?" She's the realtor that found our house for us. She's like, "I put you in this house for a reason, and you go to the other schools." It was kind of funny, but it all worked out because the school that we picked has a disruptor for the frequency grid. And I have a good feeling like these frequency grids are slowly coming down worldwide. But if you visit a school and you don't like the aspects of it, you don't like the feeling you get after you leave that school, don't choose that school. Even though it's good on paper and they get the funding and all the things look beautiful, if you don't get a good feeling, go with your gut. Did you want to talk about any aspects of that?
Absolutely. My perspective is definitely a little different
Yeah.
because I was an educator in the public schools and charter schools for 10 years in my area. And as I watched my oldest growing, I'm going, she's not going to like fit into the system like a glove, you know? And I worked with gifted and talented children in my job, which was amazing because I got to see a lot of expanded souls and I learned about indigo children at that time, all of that. But I began researching some alternatives because I knew she needed something different. And my youngest is more of a rule ignorer. So she also does too. Um, so I was able to homeschool them until my oldest was in fourth grade. And she had a lot of things she did need some one-on-one attention for. So it was really good. She had that foundation, in my opinion. And I was a trained educator, although that's not necessary for homeschooling. Um, because you know your children best. So, um, and then because of my divorce situation, it was court ordered that they go to school. So, it was, for me, that was just horrific. But somehow the universe worked it out so that we could go to this tiny little private school, which was perfect for them to transition into. And they both loved it. So they were able to go there through the eighth grade. And now I'll talk about the high school years later.
Mhm.
That's a whole other ball of wax.
Whew.
They're, the whole middle school at this tiny school was about 25 max kids. So they went from that to a school of 1,500, which ironically or not, probably not. I also went from a smaller school to a very large school for high school. So, same situation, went from private to public. So, it's interesting how these patterns were continuing without even me realizing it.
That's
But
great.
they were, I could see the difference in how my kids interacted with each other when they went to school too.
Hmm.
So, they started to divide their friendship a little bit. And so it comes and goes now. They connect, they disconnect. And they're very, very different souls as well. So I don't expect it to be the most ideal, always, all the time connection. But yeah, I read a lot of books about homeschooling and the benefits and all of that. I was also into gentle and conscious parenting at the same time. And so just really allowing my kids through, especially through homeschooling and doing co-ops and small group, different enrichments, to allow them to just fully express who they were without feeling like they needed to conform. So for that part, I'm grateful. Now in high school, they all want to conform. I understand that. Who didn't really? Unless you were one of those purposeful, wanting to just disrupt the system type person, which is beautiful too. Um, but they both want to fit in and do all the things and get all the good grades and um and all that. But I'll come back to high school. I think that's premature. So that was my experience with all of that. And it was so beautiful because you're right about the energy of schools. This small school, I happened to just know somebody who was already her kids were already attending. Her kids went through the same situation mine did with divorce. And she said, this is the most kind and gentle. And so I toured it and I looked at other options, like even a Waldorf type option. But it had a weird energy about it too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, the concept of the Waldorf is beautiful, but this particular school was like, no. Even the Montessori felt off to me, which are both beautiful concepts. So thankfully, we were able to get into this system, and then they weren't able to, middle school is rough on any kid. So the fact that they didn't have to go with 1,500 other children in the middle school situation where there's a lot of confusion happening for people was
Mhm.
just great. So, yes, it all worked out as it was meant to, even if it wasn't ideal from my perspective.
Yeah. And that's the
So,
most important part. You want your children to grow and prosper, and in any environment. I
mhm.
way more prefer homeschooling. But in the situation that I am in right now,
Hmm.
it's just not possible. So
Right.
yeah, you make do. You're gonna have a building with fluorescent lights, concrete walls. The bell's
Mhm.
gonna ring for certain things. They're gonna go. They're
Mhm.
doing like fire drills, which we did when we were younger, but now there's
Mhm.
safety drills and active
Mhm.
SHOOTER drills in
Hmm.
schools
Hmm.
now. So
Lockdowns, yes, all of it.
yes. So
Hmm.
you have to take all of that into consideration as we move forward in the now moment and in this century that we're in right now. But
Hmm.
we're also moving through Ascension and we're in, the fifth density and the fifth dimension. So we're doing it all at the same time and we're learning as we go. So certain things are going to drop and certain things are going to be enhanced. So I think that's beautiful.
Yes, and the programming that the kids are receiving is going to be very easily deprogrammed
Yes.
from New Earth. I think that's really helpful to notice because people want things to be, you know, for me, I wanted things to be a certain way, and I've had to surrender a lot of control over the years, but just trusting the fact that everything's going to work out and the foundation is set because of the family structure and the knowledge of spirituality, ascension, and their own innate knowledge too that they have, even if they're not trusting it right now. It's all going to allow them to remember who they are and all of that that goes along with that. So,
Absolutely, absolutely. I'm so glad you brought that up because this is the perfect time to bring this up. So my older son in second grade, he brought this home. Government at work. He's like, what is that? He's learning about social studies, so this is like the whole deal. So I'm not, I'm all about getting in there and dissecting and debunking and deprogramming. So I read through it the night he brought it home, and some of the things in there is just, facts like the government, this is where they located, this is what they do, there's three branches of government, blah blah blah. He can understand all that stuff, but then it starts talking about how the government is, the authority and they're there to tell you what to do and all this stuff. And even the picture, it's like a police officer giving information, like the authority. It just starts off with that. Visuals are everything with kids. So the next day, as we're walking into his elementary school, I was talking about this book, and I said, you know, the government, you know who the government works for, who actually hires the government. He's like, who, mommy? And I'm like, we the people. We are their boss. And he just lit up because he knew deep down in his DNA, he knows that we the people are in charge of this mass consciousness experiment. And it's not government. And if you know the word government, govern is to control in Latin, and ment is mental. So it's to control the mind. That's what government means in Latin. And we're breaking that. We're breaking that paradigm. So it's good to go through their book bag, find the books, even though he already read through all of this and this is completely complete. Yeah, it's really important. But to give them credit where credit is due, they also came home with Constitution Day. So on Constitution Day, which was I think this is saying it's September 17th. The date is a little crazy on here. But anyways, yeah, September 17th is Constitution Day. What a nice day.
17.
Yeah, I didn't realize it's a good number. Same date. So he's learning about that as well. And it does say we the people on here. So you got to pick through it. There's certain things that are still there that have to be deprogrammed, and there's certain things that are beautiful, and they are learning
Yes.
about everything. Yeah. So
Yes.
just following up on what they're learning and making sure they
Mhm.
know why they're learning it is really important. Yeah.
Absolutely. I have a funny story that piggybacks off of that
Mhm.
because I would occasionally sub at my daughter's school when they needed extra help. And one of the teachers there were kind of similar. She's also a yoga teacher. And so I subbed for her one day and she knows me enough to know that what the topics I had to like present on for, I think it was social studies. It was just hilarious that it was me coming in to teach. And the Matrix is hilarious this way. Um, but it talked about medical. health advances and germ theory, things like that. And I was like, what a funny day. And the things in the arm and how amazing those are. And I was like, oh, wow. And me doing this. So, of course, I added some anecdotes of the other side of things. Well, some people think this and some people think this. Whether or not that went through to the children or not, hopefully it did. But it was just ironic that that was just, that's the, mm, shall I say it, propaganda that was presented that day. So I
Yeah.
had to amend it a little bit.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm so glad you're there. Your energy probably shifted it as well.
I
Yeah,
hope so.
they also offer free dental services at the elementary school that my children are in.
Mm,
So when I sign them up for it, because it's okay to have dental services, but the fluoride's not okay.
mm-mm,
So I put no fluoride, like I wrote it all over the paper. And they call me, they're like, is there a reason? Are they allergic to fluoride? I'm like, no, it calcifies your pineal gland. I don't want
mhm,
them to have that. It also decreases IQ.
mhm,
And there's no rebuttal. If I went to a dentist office, yeah, maybe I would get some rebuttal. But the people on the phone, I don't even know. Maybe they're NPCs. But it was just like, okay, thank you. Thank you for your information. So
yes.
if you're gonna engage in the current system, which is crumbling,
Hmm.
engage with consciousness. And that's why we're making this video today. Conscious parenting, like really
Hmm.
getting in there and looking at the details and knowing what's going on with your children at all.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's another thing is knowing my kids and who they are and their makeup, their consciousness, their awareness of the world. I've never been one to put pressure, they're barking, on them for getting good grades, being perfect. I said, did you do your best? Did you honestly make an effort? That's beautiful. And if not, that's, sometimes that's fine too. Because, we started school and then the world shut down. And so when my daughter cleaned her room out like a year later, just she found a bunch of papers just shoved under her bed. She's like, oh, I guess I never did these. So I was like, is it going to matter in the long run? Absolutely not. So I'm not going to be hard on her. I'm just letting it all go. I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, that probably wasn't the best choice, but here we are.
Yeah, no, it works out in the end. And did she even need the papers,
No,
the knowledge?
absolutely not. They were
Exactly.
adapting and they did a bunch of extra papers just to modify the whole school system, to make it work. So it's not needed.
Yeah, absolutely. And
Hmm.
as your children move into a certain type of environment for schooling, a lot of the questions that we want to ask our children is, how was your day?
Hmm.
And that is such a big question for them because they go from like 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. Some of them get picked up at 2 o'clock. Some of them are in aftercare. So for instance, our children are in aftercare until like 4:30 because I work from home, but I'm still working. Like I can't get them on time. So when I was starting to ask them, how was your day? And all you're gonna get is, it's good. It's too much. There's so much that happened in that big chunk of time. So what I'm asking them now is, what was the best part of your day? Did you help someone today? Were you kind to someone today? What did you learn about yourself today? And those are really, they're more pinpointed questions where you can get more out of your children when you're asking them a question. So instead of making it a macro question, start making it a micro question, and you'll start getting more information. It's all about how you word the questions.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and I have one child I have to ask more specific questions than the other. One is more willing to give information, and that comes from the two household, one narcissistic, one not situation.
Yeah.
Um, and so and for my oldest, she's more social when it comes to school. So I'll say, okay, you've joined choir this year. And I know that's because you love all the people and it's the community, it's theater. She loves musical theater. It's all connected. So how's that going? How's choir going? Because the other parts of the day aren't her favorite. So I know that. I can say, okay, but your favorite teacher is this class. How's that going? Um, so absolutely, I would agree with that completely. Because when I was in school too, I'd say, yep, school is school. That was my answer.
Yeah, it's so
So,
easy to get like a two-word answer or one-word answer from
mhm,
those questions. That's funny.
mhm,
And then also I wanted to talk about the role of the divine masculine in 5D parenting and conscious parenting. So in my
mhm.
household, it's a mother-father situation, and we are very different. I mean, down to like our birthday is 6 months completely opposite of each other.
Oh, wow.
Background's different. My husband is Canadian and he was raised Jewish. You know, t technically he's Jewish, but he also considers himself Jewish, which we hear a lot because a lot of things were done phonetically. They weren't kosher, so certain things that are Orthodox just wasn't even a thing in the
Mm,
household. But either way, it's completely different from a Caribbean background, which I have. So basically, even with all the differences, opposites attract, so we connect. And the role of the divine masculine is it's going back to not being considered toxic. It's going back to being considered
mhm,
wholesome. Without the narcissism, without the negativity, without um, the brute force of what was in the past. It's coming into a balance with the feminine and making sure that the children have a good foundation of discipline, understanding what's right from wrong, and including play into all of that at the same time. So we do have time out with our children. We make sure that they understand what's right from wrong, their demeanor, their how they uh, how they react to things instead of screaming, they're talking in indoor
mhm,
voice, things like that. And of course, at the age that they're at, that's what they're learning at that age. But it evolves as they get older.
mhm,
When we go to parties, we were at a New Year's Eve party recently, and our kids are always like the quiet ones that just want to maybe do a video game or play with toys. And then you have the other kids that are like running around with their heads cut off. And it's just that is my litmus test to show me that we're on the right path. And they're actually a part of society, but they're also learning and growing intuitively. So going back to the role of the divine masculine, and maybe it's different having boys because I have the boys, you have the girls. My sister also has girls. She has two girls, 16 and 20, so they're much older now, but she also separated and divorced from her husband, narcissistic situation there. And the dual parenting was difficult because as conscious parents and as intuitive parents, we know how to create the environment. We know how to clear the energy in the room. We know how to create the boundaries in the house, maybe sprinkling salt outside of the house. Burning incense, burning Palo Santo, burning sage. We know how to do these things, giving the kids a salt bath before they go to bed, rubbing magnesium on their cream on their feet, or lotion, magnesium lotion, and making sure that they have all of those things, the right diet, or organic, whatever that looks like. And then it's as if when they go to another location and they come back, you have to start it all over again.
yeah,
Um,
detox time,
yes,
yes.
exactly.
Mhm.
Yes. So we're talking with both of those aspects in mind because that's the reality of our times. So making sure that we get the balance of that happening is really important as well. And I'm
Yeah.
sure you want to touch on that, Amelia.
Yes, where was my mind going? I had like 30 million thoughts just in that one little moment there. Um, but yeah, the balancing act of um having like the conscious parenting home, and I'm just gonna say it, the immature parenting home.
Mhm.
Um, their dad remarried, so they're both toxic. Both of them have their own narcissistic, without too many labels. Um, and so she even told my children at one point that she didn't want kids. Um, so, very different communication, but then she was like, but love you guys. it's very immature. So my kids come back to me and they have to purge all the stuff they've been storing up all week, and they tend to fight more with each other. They act a little bit more not who they are, or maybe that immaturity that's presented over there, because that never changed, you know. And so my goal was just to not talk about that home too much at all. It's a little easier now that they're older, and um I can say certain things. I'm sorry, that's happening. That's not right. That's not what I would be doing, you know, um, without too much, because of course they still want to love the other parent, and it's a really fine line of balancing all of that. But my goal was to create the safe, high vibration, healthy eating, and I mean, all of those things. I mean, I had to get some of that written into court orders, but they were not followed because they
Mhm.
had some reactions. Thankfully, I learned how to clear those for people, myself included, so I could eat more foods. And trauma often is connected to the food sensitivities, so on and so forth. So
Mhm.
that was my goal, was just to create this place to be a safe place so that they could just be a little more free, a little less rigid. So does that create a little more chaos on my front? Yes. I'm just rolling with it and allowing for more rest time instead of the go, 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 urgency, this and that, and just creating a safe space for them. Oh, let's just take a break, or let's go have a picnic in the mountains because we live right here, or, you know, do those sorts of things. And just a no pressure place. And yes, especially after we had, again, 17 teenagers in my home this last weekend for a birthday party.
Mhm.
I have not yet used my Palo Santo, but that was the goal the day after, because a few slept over and we had a whole, it was like almost a 24-hour celebration. And so just cleansing the home. And when they were younger, about your kids' age, they were a lot more open to the spiritual aspects that I was just emerging into. So
Mhm.
they do have a foundation in that, and it is becoming a little more popular, even with the, you know, age 15 to 20 range of more of that spirituality. So it is coming back.
Mhm.
And also developmentally, you know, between 14 and 18 is when they start to see the truth about personality types, aka the narcissist, and the truth of the different games and things that go on. So I see that emerging as well, for them to go, hmm. Now my youngest, she was born 30, just she just was. She just was born so mature. She potty trained herself twice. She decided to stop using the pacifier by herself at 18 months. Perfect timing
Yeah.
for like dental, they say. I don't know.
Mhm.
Um, and at age 8, you know, she knew things like Santa's not real. She also was describing to me situations at the other home. She's like, and I couldn't quite follow her, but she knew that this was a lie and this wasn't right, and I don't believe them. You know, so she knew, but so she kind of encapsulates herself going over there. And when she was about 9 years old, you know, I was doing a lot of home cleansing and things like that. I cleansed this entire home of energy. She said to me, Mom, I could cleanse my room and Anara's room, her sister, but I couldn't cleanse Dad's room. Hmm, wonder why. I was like,
So young. Wow.
yeah. I was like, that's so advanced.
Yeah.
I
It's
would never,
amazing.
you know, have been able to do that. Um, So at her age, I wouldn't have been aware. It's fine. That's not what was meant to be. But so it is in a way they were forced to grow up a lot faster.
Mhm.
But also I'm grateful that they're able to see the difference of the two places and can start to discern for themselves truth versus not.
Mhm.
So I
That
don't
is,
know if that piggybacked on what you said, but I feel like it was something.
yeah, no, that's beautiful. Yeah. And as we wrap up the younger years, certain th takeaways that I just want to remind is that conscious parenting is going to get easier because of the quality of soul that the kids are coming in with. Like they are tapped in, and there's certain things that they'll say that you're just kind of taken aback by. You know, my younger son said, "I remember being in your belly." I was like, "Okay, what color was it?" And he said, "Red." I was like, "Oh, okay." And I asked the younger one, and he said, "Brown." So it's not they're they're actually thinking about it and giving me a really good answer. And then
Hmm.
also, for those of you that may watch Laura's View and Tarot Tour too, she is also a YouTuber and social media truther. She talked about her grandson coming up to her one day. She was babysitting him, and he said, "You used to be my mom." And she was like, "Oh yeah, in a past life?" He was like, "Yeah." And then he just walked away like it was normal. And that's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing. And that's what's happening. And as we move through telepathy as a baby, we're in the post-toddler years with the children. And they, speak about these things more to me than my husband, but they'll talk about sending me their thoughts. So they have a cute way of going, okay, mommy, I'm going to send my thoughts to you now. And they like tap, like they're tapping their chest like it's a keyboard or something. And then I always play along because I love it. And I say, okay, I got the thought.
Hmm.
Oh, that's a nice color. Or wow, how'd you do that? How'd you create that? And we have this dialogue. So the two things that are most important from a conscious parenting aspect, um, number one is to actually do mirror work with the children. Mirror play is a little better way to speak of it. And right, at night before they go to bed, and it doesn't have to be every single night, but I get a mirror and or I use the camera on my phone, my smartphone, and they get to see their face. And I tell them, okay, say I love you, I really love you, I adore you, I accept you. And to instill that when they're under 7 years old, because under seven or even under 8 years old, they're running around as their subconscious mind. So they don't have that boundary between conscious and subconscious. They can't watch a movie and think that it's fake. Everything is real, everything gets downloaded into the subconscious mind. So instead of putting all the programming that we have in life, we are instilling conscious programming where we're telling them how important that their relationship with themselves is. And I know that it's sunk in because the younger one, they had this Christmas shop at school that they could, or holiday shop at school that they could buy presents for their loved ones. And I sent both of them with a good amount of money to buy for everybody and for themselves. And the youngest one came home and gave me a mirror. And I knew it sunk in because he knew that mirrors are important and mirrors are a safe place for you to connect with yourself, which is huge. So that's number one. Mirror work and mirror play, especially before the age of 7, it's going to help them. Maybe after the age of 7 and in preteen and post-teen years, it's a little bit more gritty because they're going through the hormones. But in those younger years, if you can fit that in, and it doesn't have to be every night. I probably did it once a week. And also playing with them is my number two most important thing. Play equals love. Like even at 8, 10 years old, playing with them equals love. If you ask them, what do you want? What do you want to do? What's important to you? It's like, no, nothing really. I just want to play with you, mommy. Just come play with me. Playing is love in their eyes because it's connection. It's their form of intimacy at that age, and it's wholesome and it's beautiful. So make the time to play with your children, even in the older years. As right now, it's, magnetic tiles and Legos and boy stuff for me. But what is it? Is it a tea party? Is it, dressing up dolls? What is it for you? So find that aspect of play and work it into every single thing that you can as much as you possibly can because it's really hard.
Hmm.
We're not in a village. I don't have like a huge
Hmm.
support system. I have support when my parents are in town, but they are retired and they live in Bahamas and they're not here all the time. So it's me and my husband. So
Yeah.
you just have to, and my sister lives 40 minutes away, but she's also really busy with her children, so it's tough. So you make it
Hmm.
work. Hmm.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I would like to piggyback off of that developmental stage 0 to 7,
Hmm.
because they say that by age 8 that the RAS, the reticular activating system of the nervous system, is fully formed. So that's how you're going to respond to the world from here on out. But I'm like, no, that's not exactly true. Well, yes, those first 7 years are very, very beautiful and important. Nothing that they say is truly permanent, I believe to be permanent. Um, so just know that if there's been a lot of trauma before the age of 8, that that can be healed and restored, and the inner child can be fully restored. And I see that. Like my youngest will even, she'd be like, "Oh, mom, do this. Let's do this because it's my childhood." And she's 14. Like, but she's thinking like age 7, right? Half of her life ago. And so for play, it's very different now at this age, but it's me always being at her basketball game, or it's me taking them to Build-A-Bear because they did that as a child every so often. Just remembering those things, or um I can't think of other examples right now, but I really do try to incorporate that. Um, and sometimes they just need, again, just downtime because we have two projectors and a manifester in this home. And so we're all kind of lower energy type. And so we need to have some fun and then take a break. So, and we also love going to the movies, and um, our town has this like free summer movie program they do at the old theater. So that's also like reminiscent of childhood and fun for them and things like that. Or I could go on, but
Yeah.
yeah,
Love
really
that.
important. Yeah, and it's all is going to be restored for all of the kids who've been through the tough stuff.
Hmm.
So
Absolutely. Well, I didn't realize you have a manifestor. Is that my oldest one is a manifestor? Is it your oldest or youngest?
it is my youngest.
Wow, interesting. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's an interesting dynamic between the two of them because maybe the younger one's trying to boss the older one around.
Um, in a
Or
lot of ways, yes. Yeah, because my older one's just all over the place, and here my youngest one's like, I've got everything in a row, and she's also a 1 on the Enneagram, so she goes into logic all the time, and so I'm a 9, and my oldest is a 9. We're both projectors. It's just it's an interesting dynamic for sure.
yeah, that's
So
fun.
we could use a
Wow.
generator though. We really could.
I hear ya. Yeah, that's so funny. And we could do a whole video on the human design aspects and parenting that way. That would actually be fun. We can definitely work on something like that for
Yeah.
the audience. Because if you know about human design, it just puts everything into
Mhm.
place for you. And as projectors, we are open, we're here to lead, and we need a lot of time by ourselves and a lot of
Mhm.
things like that. So we could talk about that. I could talk about that all day. It's so interesting.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is. And then how it mixes with the gene keys as well. I don't know if you've done any
Wow.
work with that, but it's
Love it.
so amazing.
So good.
Yeah.
So fun.
Yeah.
We'll definitely talk about that. Put that in the comments if you're interested. Let us know. So
Absolutely.
yeah, so let's move into the middle school, high school aspects and talk more about mature children and of course maintaining children while we move into our humanitarian projects and spiritual careers. Mhm.
Yes. What I noticed having two daughters moving through the middle school years was a lot of transitions for them.
Mhm.
So they had, all these, especially with friends and their own little community. And so everything seems to explode at middle school level with girls and friendships and everything 6th through 8th grade. Plus, my oldest is not a fan of transition. So when she went from to middle school into high school, she struggled for a few weeks and just adapting, adjusting, and maybe that's the projector in her. Um, but and so the middle school year, it's really about nurturing just a safe emotional space, acknowledging that they have no idea what they're trying to process hormonally all of those things, really still paying attention to nutrition and how to help keep that balance for them while they're making all the bad food choices that starts in middle school. At least that's what I noticed. Um, they don't want to be different, right? They just want to eat what every other kid is eating, which is, I have opinions about that. But, and so that was the hardest part about that. And I wasn't worried about academics or anything like that. It was mostly like, do they feel safe? Do they feel heard? Because I grew up not feeling heard. When they used my voice, I just stopped using it. Um, and and do they have a connection to their own spirituality? So, however that's going to develop and grow and expand. And so I think that's really foundational for the middle school years because once you get into high school, it's chaotic. And I don't know if it truly matters too much, the school. I mean, yes, it can have an impact. Um, but there weren't really any good choices for any smaller private high schools around here. And both my kids were convinced that public high school is the only way to go if you want to go to college and all these things, all these different lies being told to them. And so I just surrendered it and said, okay, I guess we're going to have this experience. So it's just a weird place. It's just a weird place. So I'm allowing it to be what it's meant to be for them. And so we're in our third year essentially. Oh, and she's messaging me right now, actually, um, of that time. And so outside of the prison system, that's what Mark Atwood likes to call it, and that's how I've labeled it on our Life 360. Um, so um, what we can do just from my standpoint to kind of counter some of that or to help it blend into their world more seamlessly is again just creating, I think, for my oldest, more fun. For my youngest, it's friends, like friend time with her small group, because they're really starting to connect more outside the home versus, when they're younger, it's like their family is their community and helping them to find their little niche or their space. I was trying, like for the last 2 years, I was trying to say, okay, what fun extracurriculars, what kind of group would you like to be a part of? What would you like to try? Because now's the time. I mean, when I was an adult, I stopped trying some of those things.
Yeah.
I eventually got back to it. Like I wanted to take a dance class. So I did that in 2020 and things like that. But really just giving them the freedom of choice, the freedom of expression, the freedom just to be who they're meant to be with boundaries, of course. But those conscious boundaries that don't take away their personal sovereignty. Um, Everything's within reason, right? Everything should be balanced. Has it been perfect? Absolutely not, because we have different factors outside of this space, nor would it be if we didn't. So it's a learning process, and even intuitive moms and dads, still make the wrong choices, and that's okay. So, and then so as the parent, forgiving the self for making that mistake too is huge. Forgiving your kids too, because they're going to say some things to you that you're not going to love. And so it's a constant just let's clear the air, clear the air, clear the air. And what do you need? And how can I help you with this? And do you need help with this? Both my kids have just taken on the school load and just doing it on their own. Now, to be fair, I can't help them with math. So
Yeah.
it's not my thing. I went to algebra 2 and stopped. So, and I'm okay with that. But they really want to do the advanced math, especially my youngest. She's like pushing herself on purpose to do double up math for 2 years to like get it done and done. So she won't even need to take math her junior year, essentially. So, um, but I'm not putting that pressure on them. That's all self-induced. So, and I tell her it's okay to take a break. It's okay not to push that hard. It's okay to spread it out and just give her the freedom of choice that she may or may not need. Um, so I guess that's most of it. I might be missing a few facets, but and I think it's just all about leading with example on how I live.
Yeah.
with my own friendships and how I prioritize what they need over pretty much everything else.
Mhm.
So, within reason, of course. But they'll see that versus other sides of the coin, other families, other situations, whatever it is, they'll
Yeah.
notice. So,
I love that. Yeah. What you said, leading by example, is huge. Like they will mimic everything and they'll keep
mhm,
doing it maybe up until a certain point. But I don't know, like when I think about my childhood, I mimicked what my sister did because that was the closest thing that I could correlate to learning. And
mhm,
even down to saying exactly what I say. Sometimes the kids start playing that game and I twist it. I'm like, oh, I love this girl at school named blah, blah, blah. And then they stop because they don't want to say that stuff. So, but having fun with it is important.
yeah.
The inner dialogue that you have with yourself, which is your inner child, that becomes the parent that speaks to the child. So we are all in this game of clearing shadows, clearing ancestral trauma,
Mhm,
clearing the triggers that we had from an inner child perspective, and the first 7 years of our lives where we learned all of that subconscious information. So remember that when you are speaking to your children, who is speaking to them? Is it the big
mhm.
soul, the conscious aspect of you, or is it a broken inner child that is wounded and triggered? And we are all working on that. It's never going to be
Oh, yeah.
perfect, but we do the best that we can. So just that is the quintessential aspect of conscious parenting, just knowing and being the observer sometimes, stepping back,
Mhm,
looking at things outside of the box and really figuring out what works. And also, a lot of us were raised hearing children should be seen, not heard. And you
mhm,
just said that in your dialogue where you just ended up not saying anything. And sometimes we would be told that as well. And as a projector, that is just like the end of it. Like you hear something like that, and as a projector, we need
mhm,
to voice our opinions and we need to be
mhm,
recognized. So I just, once I heard something like that, I just shut down. But I
mhm,
found my voice again, obviously, because we're here with platforms and presenting and doing the videos, doing the work, and you heal it. So there's always a bounce back. There's always a way to bounce back. But never saying that to a child is a good idea. And the children that are coming in, they're not going to listen to that. They're not going to listen to children should be seen, not heard. They're going to look at you and be like, I don't think so. So it's fantastic. And I saw a presenter do this and before we even started with our parenting, and I wanted to, as we wrap up, to talk about this. As we parent and we go through the evolution from, infant to toddler, to the younger years, to the older years, we have to remember that parenting is kind of like a relay race. We're as parents, we go first, we go around that track first. And when we hand the baton to the child, we have to let go of the baton.
mhm. So
Well,
hard.
right? So hard. And I'm starting to do it now. Kids will come up to me and say, how do I do this? Help me with this. And sometimes I just say, figure it out. And a part of me is
Mhm,
like, oh my gosh, Dana, why are you doing that? He's only 7, he's only 5. But they have to get that leg up and figure it out. What
mhm,
happens when you hold on to that baton? And they're running that relay race. Can they move on? Can they move forward? Can they move out of the house when they're whatever age is appropriate to move out of the house? Can they get that career that they're looking for? Can they understand about the money system? We're going to have a new money system, which is even better.
mhm.
But
Yes.
are they going to know how to cook and clean and do the laundry for themselves? Which I don't see that changing anytime soon until we get replicators. But things are going to evolve. So how do we evolve and how do we help them evolve? We let go. And if there's one takeaway from the final years in life, that's what I would uh, provide is to know when to let go, know when to give them those safe boundaries, but also no boundaries to explore and learn and be their own vessel. Because we are just gatekeepers, bringing them in to the earth plane. We don't own our children. The world owns the children. And the children, at this point, the children own themselves. They're coming in extremely sovereign, and we're here to honor that.
Yeah. That was one thing I felt I was criticized for by my own parents, that I gave my kids so many choices when they were younger. They were all within reason for me, and I'm a very easygoing person overall. So, um, I was like, well, which one do you want to do? And now with the critical thinking piece, like you were saying, yeah, so how are we going to fix this? Or how are you going to find a way to work through this to get to where you need to go, in this problem? you know and I think that's really huge, because if everything's done for I think a lot of things were just done for me behind the scenes and I had no idea. um and so I want to give my kids that empowerment to step out and maybe be leaders, or take on some of these projects that are going to be emerging, or be a part of that somehow, and just really expand into their true divine potential, whatever that's meant to be.
That's
So
wonderful. That's
mhm.
fantastic. And we really appreciate those of you viewing, getting to the end of this video and listening. And if you have anything that you want us to incorporate in a future video, please let us know in the comments. And I just want to give Amelia some big props because she is almost at 2,000 subscribers on YouTube, which is a very huge mark from a YouTube perspective. So if you have not subscribed yet, please subscribe to Amelia's channel. And we'll leave all our links down below this video. Mhm.
Yes, yes, all the links, and I do a lot of healing sessions, intuitive sessions, really whatever you need. I work with animals, humans alike, and kids if you have questions about what to do for that too. I feel like I was intuitively guided to support my kids with whatever they needed throughout the years, not perfectly, but if you have questions about that too, I'd love to help you out with that. And having been an elementary teacher for so long, they are my favorites to work with. And I even love the high school age. I love it. I love it. I love it. Gotta remind myself that I have to love all of these experiences, despite how unique and challenging they can be. So, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'm so happy to do our first video together and hopefully many more collaborations, whatever that looks like, because I also have a passion in midwifery and um, all things birth. I went full blown when I was having my own kids too. So it's just so fun to connect with another soul that has the same. So,
Yeah, so fun. Yeah, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, Amelia, for the invitation. As a projector, we need the invitation, and then we offer the invitation back to a fellow projector. So it's a beautiful synergy. So it's wonderful. This is a great collaboration. Thank you so
yes,
much. Mhm.
yes, thank you.
All right. We're wrapping it up. Love to everyone, and we'll see you on the next video. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
All the things.
Take care.
Thank you.